streets of the unknown, where the logic breathes and the data flows. We question what the code has shown, and spark the light when no one goes. Clearly learned voices collide.
Welcome, curious minds, to the Deep Dive. Here, we don't just skim the surface. We plunge into fascinating documents, groundbreaking research, and profound insights, extracting those crucial nuggets of knowledge that help you truly understand a topic. Today, as the veil between worlds feels maybe a little thinner, especially with Halloween right upon us, we're embarking on a particularly fitting journey. We're going into the realm of the unknown, but, and this is key, with a critical eye firmly fixed on integrity, transparency, and truth.
Absolutely.
Our focus for this deep dive is an incredibly timely and, frankly, vital new document. Dakota Franson's A Code to the Night, Paranormal Investigator's Handbook.
That's right. And for those of you who might not be familiar with him, Dakota Franson is widely recognized as a specialist of the strange. He's also the force behind the Bald and Bonkers Network, LLC.
Right.
He's spent a significant chunk of his career not just, investigating the unexplained, but also critically examining and calling out wrongdoings, serious ethical lapses within both the paranormal and, interestingly, New Age communities, too.
Yeah, think about it. Everything from outright scams preying on vulnerable people to individuals faking evidence just for social media fame, or even like deep-seated conflicts of interest within investigative teams.
Exactly. And what's really remarkable about this handbook, I think, is that it isn't just another platform for him to air grievances, which he has done.
Yeah.
It's a remarkably proactive, actionable blueprint. It's designed to genuinely elevate the entire field.
That's precisely it. His motivation wasn't merely to highlight the existing problems, which, let's be honest, he's certainly done with quite a bit of courage. Instead, he's actively chosen to try and better the field by providing a concrete action plan, a comprehensive guidebook, really, for proper conduct. It's building something positive, something sustainable.
Right.
So for our deep dive today, we're working with the first 5 sections of this handbook. It's still in development, mind you.
Good point.
But these initial sections lay out the foundational principles, the scope, and the expectations that he believes should govern anyone operating in this space.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to thoroughly examine these foundational sections. We'll talk about the profound potential implications of having such a unified code.
Yeah.
Explore in detail why Franson, given his very vocal background as a critic, felt such an urgent need to create this text now.
Why now? Yeah.
And we'll also consider how this handbook might evolve, maybe improve, and deepen in future segments as it continues to take shape. It's definitely a bold, ambitious move, and it comes at a really crucial time for the broader paranormal community, which seems to be striving for greater legitimacy.
And what an absolutely perfect day for this discussion.
Yeah.
This deep dive is airing right on Halloween. And notably, it's being aired via Franson's own Bald and Bonkers Network, LLC. That choice alone really underscores the urgency and the immediate relevance of talking about a code for navigating the unknown on a day when, let's face it, so many of us are naturally curious about those mysteries lurking just beyond the veil.
Yeah, it feels very fitting.
So let's go ahead and unpack this groundbreaking document. Hashtag unpacking a code to the night. Okay, kicking us off, the handbook doesn't shy away from its ambition, like right from page 1. It starts with a very clear mission statement, and it aims to be a unified code of principles and expectations for all individuals and organizations engaged in the investigation, research, and documentation of paranormal phenomena. That's a pretty sweeping declaration for such a, diverse field.
It truly is. And the explicit goal here, the real heart of the mission, is to elevate the field of paranormal investigation. Now, elevate, that's a strong word.
It is.
More broadly, this signals a potential paradigm shift. Think about it. For decades, paranormal investigation has been, for many, a punchline, right?
Yeah, it's a subject of ridicule.
Associated with sensationalist TV shows or, questionable claims online. Franson isn't just hoping for a better reputation. He's laying down the scaffolding for a fundamental change in how the field operates and how it's perceived.
So it's not about becoming mainstream entertainment.
Not necessarily in that way. It's more about earning fundamental respect, maybe from academia, maybe from the wider public. It means demanding that investigators act like true professionals, not just hobbyists, often by directly addressing past, let's say, embarrassments and misconduct head on.
Right.
And the mission statement lays out the core pillars for this elevation: unwavering ethical conduct, genuine community collaboration, and a shared commitment to truth, integrity, and maybe most importantly, safety.
That safety piece feels crucial.
It is. This is a deliberate and, I'd argue, necessary move away from the often sensationalized, kind of unregulated perception that has plagued the field for so long.
And it immediately addresses one of the core, often overlooked, reasons why this handbook is so necessary. The profound responsibility that comes with this work. It points out quite poignantly, I thought, that investigators often enter the lives of vulnerable individuals experiencing fear, trauma, or uncertainty. This right here explains a huge why behind the code. It's fundamentally about protecting people who are already in a delicate state.
Precisely. This highlights the absolute ethical imperative at the heart of responsible investigation. When someone contacts a paranormal team, they're often at their most vulnerable. Maybe grieving, maybe frightened by unexplained things happening in their home, or just struggling with personal experiences they can't rationalize.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Imagine someone in deep grief, believing their deceased loved one is trying to reach out, only to encounter an investigator who seems more interested in capturing dramatic footage than offering compassionate support.
That's awful.
So the handbook's stated aim to prevent exploitation and discourage those who would misuse the paranormal for personal gain, fame, or financial manipulation, that directly echoes Franson's well-known criticisms of wrongdoings in the field.
Right.
It's not just about the phenomena themselves, it's profoundly about the people involved, both the investigators and those seeking their help. This really makes you ask, how many current practices, maybe implicitly or even through negligence, kind of allow for or even encourage that kind of exploitation? This handbook feels like a direct, robust counter to that.
What I find particularly compelling is the call for a higher standard of professionalism. It's not just about sticking to a rigid scientific method or, solely relying on spiritual belief.
Right.
The handbook champions a thoughtful blend of approaches, acknowledging historical context, maintaining spiritual reverence, applying scientific reasoning, and, quote, above all, human compassion. That multifaceted approach suggests a very holistic and balanced view, one that listeners might not typically expect from something called a paranormal handbook.
This blend is absolutely crucial. It's an acknowledgement that this field isn't purely empirical science, nor is it solely spiritual exploration. It requires a really nuanced understanding of human experience, the vast historical context of belief systems, and the rigor of critical thinking.
Yeah.
And that phrase, we are not just seekers of the strange, we are guardians of truth, empathy, and the communities we serve, that truly redefines the investigator's role.
It does.
It shifts the focus from just finding evidence to embracing a broader responsibility of care and service. It positions the investigator not as some detached, almost clinical observer, but as someone deeply intertwined with the well-being of the individuals and communities they interact with. It's about serving, not just observing.
So if this is the foundation, what does this all mean for the field's future? The ambition to legitimize our work, encourage transparency, and build a united front is clearly articulated. This is fundamentally about combating the misinformation, harm, and sensationalism that have long plagued our field. Why is it so important to explicitly name and fight these elements? Why call them out directly?
Well, the wider implication here is that it's vital because the long-standing lack of legitimacy and that pervasive sensationalism have been the primary, almost insurmountable barriers to the field ever being taken truly seriously.
Right.
Think of the wild claims, the staged videos, the outright hoaxes that just erode public trust. This has also directly contributed to the vulnerability of clients, right? Because those driven by fame or profit often prioritize spectacle over sensitive, responsible investigation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Franson is essentially saying, look, we can't move forward if we don't directly address and actively combat the very things holding us back. This unified front he's pushing for is meant to systematically push out the bad actors and the harmful practices that consistently tarnish the reputation of everyone else trying to do good work.
So it's like a form of self-regulation.
An ambitious form, yes. A proactive effort to earn external respect and eventually maybe broader acceptance.
Okay, let's turn our attention then to Section 2, defining the terrain scope of the field investigative focus. The handbook defines what it calls the broad field, commonly referred to as paranormal investigation or 14 research.
14. Interesting inclusion.
It is. And it explicitly aims to define, support, and standardize responsible practices across all investigative domains, regardless of methodology, belief, or organizational affiliation. That sounds incredibly inclusive, but also quite ambitious when you consider the sheer diversity of what falls under paranormal.
I'm struck by that inclusivity, too. It indicates that this code isn't just for, say, traditional ghost hunters or dedicated ufologists.
Right.
It's for anyone seriously exploring the unexplained, regardless of their specific niche or their preferred approach. This speaks directly to that unifying aspect we saw in the mission statement.
Yeah.
The underlying idea seems to be creating a common ethical ground, a shared framework for everyone, fostering a sense of shared purpose rather than having all these isolated, often competing factions.
Which you do see a lot of.
You do. It feels like a crucial foundational step towards building that truly united front against the very issues Franzen has so pointedly highlighted in his critiques. It acknowledges the vastness of the unknown while still seeking common ground for integrity.
And the handbook doesn't just broadly define it. It systematically lists included phenomena, which really illustrates the impressive breadth of its intended application.
Right.
We're talking about everything from spiritual phenomena that would encompass familiar concepts like hauntings, poltergeist activity, mediumship, maybe even more esoteric forms of spiritual communication.
And it also covers psychic phenomena, delving into human abilities like ESP, precognition, clairvoyance, remote viewing, even telepathy, exploring the potential of the human mind beyond what we conventionally understand.
And of course, a critical inclusion for modern times, UFO, UAP, and extraterrestrial phenomena. This category extends from simple, unidentified aerial sightings,
Which are everywhere now.
exactly, to more complex alleged abduction experiences, and even those interdimensional theories suggesting these things might not be from outer space at all, but maybe from other realities.
Yeah, and then there's cryptozoological phenomena. This includes the search for creatures like Bigfoot, Mothman, Loch Ness Monster, along with other unknown terrestrial or aquatic species that science hasn't formally recognized yet. It really broadens the scope way beyond just ghosts.
It really does. Plus, a fascinating inclusion for many. 14 investigation. This is a nod to Charles Fort, a truly captivating figure
Oh, yeah, definitely.
who spent his life meticulously documenting inexplicable phenomena that just didn't fit neatly into any scientific box. Things like rains of frogs, mysterious disappearances, spontaneous human combustion, strange aerial lights seen throughout history.
The damn data, as he called it.
Exactly. By including 14 research, the handbook encourages investigators to look beyond just traditional ghosts as UFOs into this broader tapestry of the unexplained, which, paradoxically, often requires an even more rigorous, open-minded, and multidisciplinary approach.
And finally, it mentions cross-phenomena connections. This section encourages looking for underlying patterns or theories that might link seemingly disparate events, for instance. Portal theories suggesting specific locations might be hotspots for multiple types of phenomena.
Right, like the Skinwalker Ranch idea.
Precisely. Or maybe patterns observed between intense haunting activity and UFO sightings in the same area. This comprehensive list genuinely shows that the handbook truly is designed for a very wide range of individuals and disciplines. It actively promotes an interdisciplinary understanding, suggesting that all these seemingly disparate fields share common ethical challenges and responsibilities.
It argues for looking at the whole tapestry of the unexplained, not just isolated threads, and applying a consistent ethical standard across the board.
Exactly.
Now, moving beyond just what is investigated, the handbook also dives into behavioral and professional focus areas, and this is where it gets really interesting because it outlines guidance far beyond just investigative protocol. For example, professional presentation and conduct. This covers everything from attire and demeanor to how you communicate with clients and the public. Why is something seemingly as basic as how you dress or carry yourself so crucial for perceived legitimacy in this field?
Well, the wider implication here is that perceived legitimacy is absolutely paramount. In a field often viewed with deep skepticism or even outright ridicule,
Often, yeah.
how investigators present themselves, physically and behaviorally, can profoundly impact not just public perception, but critically, the trust of their clients. Imagine an investigator showing up in, a stained t-shirt, looking disheveled, speaking in overly dramatic tones.
Okay.
Regardless of the quality of their equipment or their intentions, that immediately undermines their credibility. It's about building immediate confidence.
Okay.
Similarly, social media and public engagement with clear rules on ethical content sharing, privacy standards, avoiding misinformation that addresses the incredibly complex modern challenges of public image and the digital footprint.
Oh, definitely.
In an age of instant sharing, protecting client privacy, especially if they're vulnerable, and preventing the spread of misinformation online is critical to maintaining integrity. One poorly handled social media post, a careless live stream comment, Or an unsubstantiated claim can damage an entire team's reputation, and by extension, the field's reputation.
They also touch on educational conduct, like delivering presentations and workshops with accuracy and responsibility, which emphasizes the investigator's crucial role as an educator, right? It's not just about collecting data, but responsibly sharing it.
Exactly. And interorganizational collaboration, promoting mutual respect, joint investigations, peer review, this directly combats the competitive, often siloed, sometimes even adversarial nature we unfortunately see in less organized communities.
Yeah, the infighting can be bad.
Absolutely. Then there's debunking an extraordinary claims, which calls for actively avoiding confirmation bias and engaging in constructive skepticism. This is a vital point. It brings a truly scientific and critical mindset to a field often associated primarily with belief. It's about being rigorous, not just accepting every claim at face value.
And advocacy for continuing education. That includes historical studies, tech updates, cross-disciplinary training that reinforces the idea that this is an evolving field. It demands constant learning and adaptation, not just static knowledge.
Right. And, importantly, financial transparency and responsibility, addressing ethical monetization, the proper use of donations, actively avoiding scams. This directly confronts a major area of Franson's past criticisms. It lays out clear ethical expectations for how money is handled, which is absolutely vital for building and maintaining public trust.
You know, one area I'm genuinely intrigued by, and frankly maybe a bit concerned about, is how a handbook for paranormal investigation addresses something as cutting-edge and potentially problematic as artificial intelligence. What does A Code to the Night say about AI integration? And why is that so critical for trust, especially in a field dealing with potentially unverified phenomena?
That's a really perceptive question, and it's a very forward-thinking aspect of this handbook, I agree. It states clearly that all uses of AI must be clearly disclosed in public-facing content.
Okay, mandatory disclosure.
Mandatory. This is absolutely vital for trust and authenticity because without it, audiences simply can't distinguish between genuine empirical data, like, say, a photo taken on site, and AI-generated conceptualizations or even outright fabrications.
Yeah, the tech is getting scary good.
It is. Think about the capabilities of modern AI. It can create incredibly realistic images, synthesize voices, generate text that sounds perfectly human. So the rule that AI-generated media must not be presented as genuine evidence unless explicitly labeled as conceptual or illustrative, that's a direct and necessary counter to the very real danger of AI being used to falsify evidence.
Right. Creating a completely fake narrative.
Exactly. Misleading countless people. This also ensures that the essential human element of insight isn't completely replaced by an algorithm, and that narratives aren't manipulated simply to fit some sensationalist agenda. It also encourages ethical use, respecting data privacy, attribution.
And the training recommendation.
Yeah, the recommendation for training on AI literacy for investigators is also profoundly insightful. It shows the handbook is trying to stay ahead of the curve, preparing investigators for the technological landscape of tomorrow, today.
The section wraps up with a powerful unifying statement. This handbook does not seek to divide or restrict interpretations of the unknown. Instead, it exists to support all sincere researchers and experiencers. This really reinforces the collaborative and supportive intent, doesn't it? It feels less like a strict rulebook and more like an invitation.
It absolutely is an open invitation, but with a clear understanding. All are welcome provided they commit to the values outlined herein.
Ah, there's the catch.
Well, it sets a definitive ethical boundary for inclusion. It says essentially, look, we genuinely want to unite everyone, bring together all sincere seekers, but there's a fundamental standard of conduct and integrity required to be part of this unified community.
Right.
It defines the philosophical core of the handbook: support, trust, safety, and thoughtful inquiry, rather than dogma, internal squabbling, or exclusion. This directly addresses a common issue in many niche communities, where gatekeeping and ideological purity tests can stifle growth and prevent positive, productive collaboration. It's about building a bigger, better table, not just guarding the one you already have.
So, if the mission statement sets the ethical foundation and the scope defines the broad playing field, Section 3, the vision statement, paints a truly ambitious picture of the ideal future. It starts with the aspiration for a global community of paranormal and Fortean investigators united under a common code of integrity, curiosity, and compassion. That's a huge leap from where the field often finds itself today, isn't it?
It's an enormous leap, yeah. And it's quite inspiring, honestly. The ambition for the field is to evolve into a credible, ethical, and respected area of inquiry, one that seeks understanding over fear, collaboration over competition, and truth over spectacle.
That's a direct contrast to
Yeah.
a lot of what we see.
It contrasts sharply with current public perceptions and, without a doubt, with many of Franson's own past experiences where, fear-mongering, petty competition, and sheer spectacle have too often dominated. It's a clear call to move beyond that fringe status and into the mainstream of legitimate inquiry. It's a bold vision of professionalization, aiming for the kind of respect usually reserved for established academic or scientific disciplines.
And the handbook doesn't just offer this grand vision. It thoughtfully details key future states. It breaks down this aspiration into tangible, actionable goals. First, it envisions investigators are trusted professionals, respected for their dedication, honesty, and contributions to public knowledge and spiritual welfare. This is about building a reputation that precedes them in the best possible way.
Indeed. It's about actively earning that respect through consistent ethical practice, not just demanding it. Then, crucially, clients and experiencers feel safe, supported, and protected from exploitation or ridicule.
Back to the vulnerable individuals again.
Absolutely. It connects directly back to that point from the mission statement, truly emphasizing the profound human element at the core of the work. Safety isn't an afterthought. It's a fundamental promise to those seeking help. Imagine the relief for someone distressed to know the investigator walking through their door adheres to a rigorous code designed specifically to protect them.
And a point that resonates deeply with me. Organizations work together, regardless of belief systems, investigative methods, or location, to uplift and validate one another's work. This directly combats the infighting, the territoriality, sometimes even outright sabotage that have unfortunately plagued less organized fields. It's a vision of synergy.
Absolutely. And the vision of prioritized education ensures investigators are informed, continually evolving, and grounded in both spiritual awareness and critical scientific skepticism. That blend is key. It pushes for a holistic education, recognizing that both sides contribute to a comprehensive, nuanced understanding of the unknown.
So they need to really master their craft.
Yeah, from historical research and folklore to modern tech tools. It raises an important question, though. What kind of dedicated curriculum development and mentorship programs would actually be needed to achieve such a high standard of education across the board? That's a big lift.
True. They also envision technology and tradition coexist, where cutting-edge tools like AI and advanced sensors genuinely enhance, not replace, field-tested methods, historical research, and intuitive experiences. This reinforces the AI section we discussed earlier, integrating modern tools without losing sight of invaluable traditional wisdom or human insight.
Right. And this next point feels like a direct, robust response to the specific issues Franson has actively critiqued and fought against. Ethics are non-negotiable, and those who exploit the paranormal for power, manipulation, or financial abuse are held accountable by a community that values truth and service.
Non-negotiable. Strong words.
Very. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a solemn promise of consequences, a commitment to a self-policing mechanism to ensure the integrity of the field. It's an explicit commitment to combat the wrongdoings he's spoken out against, transforming words into enforceable standards. This would be a profound shift for the field if it takes hold.
Finally, the unexplained is explored with reverence, not as a novelty or media gimmick, but as a gateway to deeper understanding of reality, consciousness, and humanity's place in the universe.
Yeah.
This elevates the entire pursuit beyond mere entertainment, doesn't it? Imbuing it with a sense of profound purpose.
What I find truly powerful here is that ultimate goal, to transform how the world sees the supernatural, not as chaos, but as a call to truth.
Wow.
It's a remarkably powerful closing statement for the vision. It suggests that the pursuit of the paranormal, when done ethically, with integrity and compassion, can actually lead to profound insights about existence itself. It frames the unknown not as something to fear, sensationalize, or exploit, but as something to approach with deep respect, sincere curiosity, and a genuine, unwavering desire for understanding. It's about changing the very identity of the field itself.
Now we get to the heart of it. Section 4, the Universal Code of Conduct. This is the practical guide, laying out the precise ethical, professional, and behavioral expectations for everyone involved. It establishes the minimum standards to protect the integrity of the field, the dignity of clients and experiencers, and the safety of all parties involved. This is truly where the rubber meets the road, detailing how that ambitious mission and inspiring vision are actually implemented on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, this section is incredibly thorough, and it meticulously addresses many specific pain points that have historically troubled the field, directly countering the kinds of misconduct Franson has critiqued. It's not just philosophical principles, it's operational, actionable guidelines.
Let's dive into each standard, and I want to really unpack them. First, 4.1, respect for all life and belief systems. It calls for respecting the beliefs, cultural backgrounds, personal experiences of clients, witnesses, other researchers. Okay, that makes sense. But crucially, it states, no entity, human or non-human, should be provoked, mocked, or treated with hostility for the sake of entertainment, validation, or exposure.
Right.
This feels like a direct, explicit challenge to that common, often destructive reality TV trope of baiting or provoking responses for dramatic effect.
It absolutely is a direct challenge, and it signifies a fundamental shift from a kind of show business mentality to one of genuine, respectful inquiry. Think of those sensationalized ghost hunting shows where investigators actively antagonize a perceived entity, often just for a dramatic reaction on camera.
Yeah, yelling, show yourself.
Exactly. This rule explicitly says no more. It's about acknowledging the inherent dignity, whether it's human or something unknown, and prioritizing that dignity over simply generating content. This standard forces investigators to consider their actions not just in terms of what they might get a reaction, an EVP, a hit, but what they do to the environment and any potential intelligent presence within it. It's a call to profound ethical consideration in every interaction, emphasizing a principle of non-harm.
4.2, truthfulness and transparency is next. It mandates honest presentation of evidence, with fabrication or manipulation leading to disassociation and public disavowal. Those are incredibly high stakes.
Huge stakes.
And it reiterates the mandatory disclosure of AI, editing software, and any experimental technologies used in public releases.
This is utterly critical for maintaining any semblance of credibility in this field. Fabrication is the quickest, most destructive way to dismantle trust. And the handbook makes it abundantly clear there's simply no coming back from it. It's an immediate disqualification.
Right.
The reiteration of AI disclosure here powerfully underscores its importance. It's not just a suggestion or a recommendation. It's a core ethical requirement for factual reporting. You absolutely cannot mislead your audience about what is real and what is generated or altered. It's about preserving the sanctity of evidence. This standard also implicitly acknowledges that the paranormal field has struggled with hoaxes and doctored evidence, and it's drawing a very firm line in the sand against those practices.
Then we have 4.3, legal and ethical integrity. No trespassing, no investigations without explicit permission, strict adherence to all local, state, federal laws. Basic stuff, but important.
Foundational, yeah.
It also requires informed consent from clients with a clear explanation of risks, limitations, how data will be used. And a profoundly important point, explicitly prohibiting engagement with individuals who are under the influence, under duress, or mentally unfit. This is about protecting the most vulnerable among us.
This is a foundational ethical standard that protects both the client and, frankly, the investigator, too. Ensuring truly informed consent, especially for individuals who may already be distressed or compromised by their circumstances, is paramount.
Yeah.
Imagine a situation where someone experiencing a mental health crisis interprets their symptoms as paranormal activity. An ethical investigator must recognize this and avoid exploiting their vulnerability. It prevents potential legal issues and, far more importantly, protects individuals who cannot truly advocate for themselves or make sound decisions in that moment. It shows a deep and necessary understanding of the profound vulnerabilities present in these types of investigations, prioritizing human welfare above all else.
4.4, professional conduct and behavior, calls for professional conduct in all settings, public, private, digital, and mandates that disputes be handled privately, avoiding public ridicule or gossip.
Good luck with that online sometimes.
Right. Teams are also expected to wear appropriate, identifiable gear and maintain a clean appearance. These may seem like simple things, but they are incredibly important for perceived legitimacy, aren't they?
They are crucial. These seemingly simple rules are about building a perception of reliability, trustworthiness, competence. Think about the common public perception of ghost hunters from less reputable media portrayals.
Yeah.
Public disputes, petty squabbles on social media, an unprofessional appearance. These all actively detract from the serious, sensitive nature of the work. If you expect a client to take your investigation seriously, you need to present yourself as someone who takes their work seriously, too. It builds immediate trust and respect, paving the way for the deeper, more sensitive work later on.
4.5, protection of vulnerable individuals goes even further. Strict prohibition of exploitation of minors, the elderly, the mentally unwell, or those who are grieving. Also, avoiding leading questions, fear-mongering, or making false promises like cleansing or rescue, unless properly trained, qualified, and with explicit consent. And very specifically, No romantic or exploitative relationships with clients or witnesses during or immediately after an investigation. This directly addresses a severe ethical lapse that has, unfortunately, been seen far too often in some less scrupulous circles.
This is perhaps one of the most critical and sadly necessary sections.
Yeah.
It directly targets predatory behavior that has stained aspects of the field. The history of this field, and indeed the broader spiritual community, has too many painful instances of individuals exploiting emotional distress or deep personal vulnerability for their own gain or gratification.
It's horrifying.
It is. The explicit prohibition of romantic or exploitative relationships is a vital, non-negotiable safeguard against a severe abuse of power and trust. It ensures that the client's well-being and integrity are always prioritized above the investigator's personal desires or motives. This rule is designed to rebuild trust from the ground up by eliminating known pathways to abuse.
Next, 4.6, collaboration and community integrity. It actively encourages collaboration over competition, stating quite wisely, knowledge grows when shared.
Nice.
And has zero tolerance for defamation, bullying, gatekeeping, or sabotage within the community. Plus, it emphasizes giving credit to sources, citing research, promoting peer learning. This really pushes for a much healthier, more productive community dynamic, moving away from those isolated fiefdoms we talked about.
This is about fostering a truly positive culture. Mutual support, shared learning, collective advancement. Instead of hoarding information, undermining others for personal gain, or engaging in petty rivalries, the Handbook advocates for a united, collective advancement of knowledge. It's a direct call to move beyond ego and toward a shared purpose, benefiting everyone involved, from seasoned researchers to new enthusiasts, and ultimately, the clients. It aims to create a true academic-style environment of shared discovery.
4.7, media marketing and monetization is a big one, especially in today's digital landscape. It demands truthful, respectful media and marketing, explicitly stating that sensationalism for profit, fear-based advertising, and misinformation campaigns are strongly discouraged.
Strongly discouraged. Okay.
Monetization is allowed through legitimate means like books or podcasts, but with the caveat that there should be no misrepresentation of experiences, evidence, or outcomes for revenue or fame. But here's the crucial nuance, and it's a smart distinction. It allows for dramatic reenactments, stylized branding, theatrical presentation, if, and this is a big if, they don't spread misinformation, encourage dangerous behavior, or mislead about evidence authenticity.
Okay, so there's some wiggle room for presentation.
It seems so, but with a very clear line. The Handbook emphasizes creative storytelling must be clearly distinguishable from factual documentation.
That is a sophisticated and incredibly important distinction. It acknowledges the undeniable entertainment aspect that draws many to the field and which can provide a livelihood for some.
Sure.
But it draws a very firm, uncrossable line. You can be entertaining, you can have a slick brand, but you absolutely cannot lie about your evidence, misrepresent findings, or mislead the public about the truth for financial gain or fame. It allows for creative expression without ever compromising that core ethical commitment to truth and accuracy.
But how do you enforce that distinction?
That's the key question, isn't it? How will this be consistently enforced and judiciously judged by the community itself? It places a significant direct responsibility on the content creator to be transparent about their creative choices versus their documented findings. Essentially requires a disclaimer, maybe explicit or implicit, on every piece of content.
Okay, 4.8, digital and social media conduct recognizes digital spaces as an extension of one's investigative presence. It warns against online harassment, doxing, hostile debate, sadly prevalent online.
Understatement.
But here's where it gets really interesting and tackles a pervasive problem Dakota Franzen has highlighted, the distinction between private groups and public transparency. While private groups are acknowledged as okay for internal operations, sensitive materials, ethics reviews.
Which makes sense for privacy sometimes.
Right. But public presentations, including live streams, podcasts, panel discussions, or broadcasts, must remain accessible to the wider public, allowing for open critique, review, and commentary.
Wow. That is a remarkably strong and direct policy. It seems specifically designed to combat what the Handbook explicitly calls blind eye zones.
Blind eye zones.
Yeah, essentially private groups with restricted access or ideological gatekeeping that could potentially foster abusive, unlawful, or predatory behavior.
Okay, unpack that. What's the danger there?
Imagine a scenario. A small, insular online group led by a charismatic figure. Maybe they start spreading dangerous conspiracy theories or encourage the harassment of perceived rivals outside the group, or even solicit money for dubious spiritual services without any external scrutiny or accountability.
Because it's all happening behind closed doors.
Exactly. Because it's a private space, their followers might never realize the ethical or even legal lines being crossed, and victims might feel they have no recourse. Franson's Handbook is explicitly saying that kind of insular, unaccountable environment is a breeding ground for exploitation, and is precisely what this code aims to dismantle. It forces accountability through public scrutiny, recognizing that misconduct thrives in the dark.
And it mentions consequences.
Yes. Importantly, any verifiable evidence of such misuse, coordinating harassment, criminal activity, unethical exploitation found within these groups can lead to formal documentation and even referral to legal authorities. It's a powerful move to expose and address misconduct, providing a mechanism for victims to potentially find justice.
Then, 4.9 Safety and Accountability covers basics that really should be standard in any field operation. Briefing on safety procedures, emergency contacts, debriefings, mental health check-ins after intense cases.
Things that often get overlooked, honestly.
It also emphasizes professional attire suitable to the environment, like bright outerwear for night investigations to ensure visibility. Simple, but smart. And crucially, reporting and reviewing incidents of harm or misconduct.
These are practical, common-sense measures for any responsible operation, yet they're often shockingly overlooked in this field, sometimes dismissed as unnecessary. The emphasis on mental health after intense cases is particularly important. It acknowledges the emotional and psychological toll this work can take on investigators. It highlights a vital duty of care not just to clients but to team members as well, fostering a culture of support and responsibility. If someone is traumatized by an investigation, the handbook says they should be supported, not just left to process it alone.
4-point Milio commitment to growth demands ongoing education, from historical research, folklore, spiritual practices to critical thinking, scientific literacy, technology. It also stresses a profound willingness to admit error, revise interpretations based on new data, actively seek peer feedback.
Humility is key there.
And it continues to keep up with emerging tech like deepfakes and voice cloning, stating they must be clearly labeled and may never be presented as unaltered evidence, consistent with the AI rules. Finally, and this is a really profound statement on character, ethical growth includes confronting personal bias, reviewing case missteps, and recognizing how personal trauma, ego, or belief systems can influence interpretation. It boldly concludes, true growth is found in accountability, not authority.
Wow. What I find truly powerful there is that it explicitly ties ethical growth to constant self-reflection and personal accountability, not just accumulating more knowledge or achieving a higher status. It directly challenges the ego and confirmation bias that are often found in public-facing roles or really in any field dealing with subjective experiences.
Oh, true.
The acknowledgement of deepfakes and advanced AI manipulation in particular is incredibly forward-thinking. It recognizes the rapidly evolving landscape of digital evidence and the urgent need for constant vigilance against misrepresentation. It reinforces the earlier AI rules by applying them directly to the investigator's commitment to ongoing ethical development. And that final statement, true growth is found in accountability, not authority. Honestly, that's a guiding principle for any community striving for integrity. It champions humility and continuous improvement over rigid dogma or unearned status.
And finally, for this section, 4.11 Financial Responsibility and Insurance. This details financial preparedness for operational scope, transparent and ethical charging for services, a strict stance against soliciting donations under false pretenses, demanding accountability for crowdfunding.
All good, necessary stuff.
But a huge, often overlooked point here, it strongly encourages obtaining specific types of insurance, including general liability, professional liability, also known as errors and omissions, equipment insurance, and event insurance.
This is absolutely critical for legitimizing the field and protecting everyone involved, clients, investigators, the public. Think about it. Without general liability insurance, imagine an investigator accidentally causes property damage during a stakeout.
Oops.
Or a client slips and falls on the investigative team's equipment. Without professional liability or E&O insurance, what if a client claims emotional distress or financial loss due to negligent advice or maybe a misdiagnosis of their situation?
Yeah, huge liability.
Exactly. Without these protections, both clients and investigators are left vulnerable to significant legal and financial risks, and such incidents can tarnish the entire field's reputation. It's a professional standard that has been conspicuously missing in many parts of the paranormal community, contributing to its informal, unregulated image.
Right.
The handbook makes it crystal clear that financial transparency and comprehensive insurance coverage are critical measures for protecting clients, teammates, reputations, and the greater investigative community. This decisively moves the field away from hobbyist territory and into a space that demands serious professional consideration of risk and responsibility. It's also a direct counter to the scam accusations Franson has often leveled at others, proving a commitment to genuine financial and operational integrity.
Okay, we've walked through the inspiring vision and the incredibly detailed code of conduct. Now, Section 5, Enforcement and Evolution Investigator Ethics and Accountability, brings it all together by focusing on transparency, trust, and personal responsibility. It establishes the ethical framework built on core standards: truthfulness, objectivity, integrity, which includes separating belief from evidence, and constant accountability.
This section is paramount because, let's be honest, a code is only as good as its enforcement mechanisms, right?
Exactly.
It lays out the precise ways by which these principles are upheld and, crucially, how those who violate them are addressed. The commitment to truth and transparency here is powerfully reinforced by stating that fabrication or manipulation of evidence will result in immediate disqualification from association with any professional directory or organization adhering to this code.
Immediate disqualification. That sets an extremely high bar.
It does, and provides clear, immediate consequences for such a fundamental breach of trust. It ensures that the integrity of evidence is absolutely non-negotiable.
And then peer oversight and mutual reporting. This really points to a robust, self-policing mechanism within the community itself. It's described as a shared duty to monitor itself, encouraging the documentation of concerns, attempts at internal resolution where appropriate, and, if necessary, reporting unethical or dangerous behavior to designated oversight bodies. Crucially, and I think this is so vital for safety and integrity, retaliation against whistleblowers is strictly prohibited and will be met with immediate public denouncement and potential legal action.
What I find particularly insightful here is the emphasis on internal accountability before potentially going to external intervention. It empowers the community to regulate itself, to take ownership of its ethical standards.
Right.
But it also provides a clear, safe pathway for escalation if internal resolution isn't possible or isn't safe. And that whistleblower protection is absolutely non-negotiable. It creates an environment where ethical concerns can actually be raised without fear of reprisal, which is fundamental to any truly transparent and accountable system.
And you can argue that directly addresses the culture of silence, maybe enablement, and fear of speaking out that Franson has criticized in the past.
Precisely. It transforms potential victims of misconduct into active participants in maintaining community integrity.
Personal bias and objectivity requires investigators to actively recognize and diligently work to reduce their own inherent biases. Confirmation bias, sensationalist tendencies, preconceived narratives must not guide conclusions. That's a tough ask in any field dealing with human perception and subjective experiences, let alone one like paranormal investigation.
That's perhaps one of the hardest ethical standards to truly embody, because it requires constant, rigorous self-awareness and an almost scientific detachment from one's own desires or beliefs.
Yeah.
More broadly, it's about separating what you want to find or believe from what the actual evidence suggests. It's a cornerstone of scientific integrity applied directly to the paranormal field, which, let's face it, has often been criticized for letting belief override evidence.
Yeah.
Similarly, boundaries between personal beliefs and public responsibility is crucial. While personal, spiritual, or philosophical frameworks might certainly drive an investigator's passion and curiosity, they must not interfere with the public duty to serve clients with neutrality, explicitly avoiding imposing belief systems or interpretations.
Which protects the client's autonomy.
Exactly. Their right to their own interpretation of their experience, rather than having an investigator's personal worldview projected onto them.
And a very practical, often overlooked point: conflict of interest disclosure. This mandates disclosure of any personal, financial, or spiritual interests that might impact impartiality. For instance, if an investigator has a financial stake in a location they're investigating, or a religious affiliation that might bias their interpretation, or even a personal relationship with one of the subjects.
This is standard professional ethical practice in almost any consulting, legal, or investigative field for a very good reason. It actively prevents situations where personal gain, ideological commitment, or pre-existing relationships could compromise the objectivity or even just the perceived fairness of an investigation. It's fundamentally about transparency and avoiding even the appearance of impropriety, which can be just as damaging to trust as actual impropriety. It builds confidence that the investigation is truly for the client, not for the investigator's hidden agenda.
The handbook then lays out a formal grievance and accountability process as a suggested model: intake, review, investigation, and resolution. It emphasizes confidentiality, professionalism, fairness throughout the entire process. This provides a clear, structured path for addressing complaints or ethical concerns within the community.
This structured process is vital. It ensures that grievances are handled systematically, objectively, fairly. It moves beyond just ad hoc complaints or informal whisper networks and into a formal, transparent mechanism. That's a hallmark of any truly professional organization. It means the community is not only setting high ethical standards, but also creating the robust infrastructure needed to actually uphold them, providing a clear path for justice and resolution for everyone involved.
And there's a strong commitment to growth and re-education offered for those who commit ethical violations, with opportunities for retraining or community service when safe. The goal here is explicitly stated, not just punishment, but to encourage sincere growth and restoration. This promotes rehabilitation and learning over simple expulsion, which is a surprisingly compassionate approach for such a strict code.
It truly is a nuanced and deeply compassionate approach. It recognizes that people can make mistakes and that when appropriate and safe, the ultimate goal should be to educate, reform, and maybe reintegrate rather than simply ostracize. It speaks to the handbook's overall aim of betterment and elevation, not just judgment or punitive measures. It's about building a stronger community by allowing individuals to learn from their missteps and become better, more ethical investigators.
Finally, what might be the most potentially controversial aspect of this section, listed as an optional standard? Community voting and public records. It discusses the possibility of community voting for major actions like expelling members, but also logging verified ethical violations in a centralized public directory to ensure transparency across groups and discourage repeat offenses through anonymity.
Okay, wow. That raises an incredibly important question for listeners to consider. How much public transparency is too much? Or what are the potential pitfalls of such a system?
Right.
On one hand, a centralized public directory of verified ethical violations could be an extraordinarily powerful deterrent against repeat offenders. It would certainly discourage repeat offenses through anonymity by making those violations publicly known and trackable across different groups, different regions. For victims, it could be an invaluable tool to identify potentially problematic individuals or teams and avoid future harm. It's a bold statement that the community is willing to essentially name names to protect its integrity.
But the potential downside?
Well, it also carries significant risks. If it's not managed with extreme rigor, due process, and a robust appeal system, it could lead to potential abuse, misinterpretation, or even unwarranted reputation damage based on unverified accusations or maybe disproportionate punishments. The challenge would be to ensure impeccable verification to avoid a witch hunt mentality.
Yeah, that's a fine line.
Ultimately, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is perhaps the ultimate manifestation of accountability, not authority. The community itself holds the power to police and protect its own. It's a truly innovative and potentially disruptive idea that Franzen might put forward, especially given his commitment to rooting out misconduct and exposing bad actors. Its implementation would require a level of meticulousness and fairness that would really define the legitimacy of the entire system. #outro.
So as we wrap up, we've taken a truly comprehensive deep dive into the first 5 sections of Dakota Franzen's A Code to the Night, Paranormal Investigator's Handbook. We've seen its incredibly ambitious mission to elevate the field through rigorous ethics, genuine collaboration, and an unwavering commitment to truth, always acknowledging that profound responsibility involved, especially to vulnerable clients.
We've explored its impressively broad scope, covering everything from spiritual phenomena to cryptozoology, and even the critical integration of advanced AI, all promoting an interdisciplinary and fundamentally responsible approach. And we've seen the powerful vision for a future where paranormal investigation evolves into a credible, respected area of inquiry, driven by deep understanding and transparent accountability, rather than fear, competition, or mere spectacle.
And we really dug into the nuts and bolts of its universal code of conduct. which provides detailed, actionable guidelines on everything from respecting diverse belief systems and ensuring absolute truthfulness in evidence to professional conduct in all settings, the vital protection of vulnerable individuals, ethical media practices, and pioneering rules for digital engagement, including directly confronting that insidious problem of blind eye zones where misconduct can fester.
Finally, we thoroughly examined the crucial mechanisms for enforcement and evolution, emphasizing peer oversight, rigorous accountability for personal bias, clear conflict of interest disclosures, and a formal grievance process designed not just for punishment, but fundamentally for growth and restoration. And that potential for a centralized public directory of ethical violations truly highlights the handbook's profound commitment to radical transparency and powerful self-regulation.
So why does all of this matter to you, our listener? Well, if you're someone who's genuinely fascinated by the paranormal, this handbook offers a clear, actionable framework. It helps you distinguish truly ethical practice from exploitative sensationalism. It's a blueprint for who you can genuinely trust in this space.
And if you're maybe more of a skeptic, this document showcases a genuine, concerted attempt from within the field itself to bring rigor, professionalism, and robust accountability to an area often dismissed as fringe or disreputable. It's an internal movement towards self-correction, striving for higher standards.
Ultimately, A Code to the Night is a blueprint that extends far beyond the paranormal. It's a powerful model for any field grappling with pervasive misinformation, persistent ethical lapses, the constant challenge of professionalization, and the urgent modern need to establish deep trust and unwavering legitimacy in a complex, information-saturated world.
And given that this handbook is still in development, still taking shape, it opens up a lot of exciting possibilities for future sections. Perhaps deeper dives into specific investigative methodologies, standardized tech protocols for equipment usage, maybe even more detailed frameworks for international collaboration, building on that grand vision of a global community. It will definitely be fascinating to see how it grows.
Indeed. So as we wrap up this deep dive, consider this for yourself. If true growth is found in accountability, not authority, how might this profound principle apply not just to paranormal investigators, but to any community, any industry, or even any individual seeking to establish trust and legitimacy in our complex, often chaotic modern world? It's definitely a question worth pondering long after the Halloween decorations are put away.